Ladies and gentlemen, there are things in this world lurking just beyond our senses, things we can't always see, but they can see us. Things that hide in the shadows, in the corners of rooms, or sometimes even within the depths of our own minds. We often think we know what's real and what's not, but what if there are forces that defy our understanding? What if in the comfort of your own home something is waiting, watching, lurking, a presence that doesn't belong? This is a story of fear, of warning, and of understanding the signs that could save you from an unseen threat. The message I bring today is one that many will ignore, yet it is one that could protect you, your family, and your home from something much darker than you realize. We are talking about the signs of a demon in your home. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Demons, really? Isn't that just superstition? But what if I told you that there are unexplained occurrences, strange phenomena that science has yet to explain that could very well be linked to something far beyond our comprehension, something not of this world? Imagine walking into a room, feeling an intense cold chill wash over you as if the temperature has dropped by 10 degrees in a single second. No open windows, no breeze, no explanation, just a cold that you can feel in your bones, but you cannot see. It's unsettling, isn't it? Well, this is just the beginning. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm about to tell you are the 7 signs that could indicate the presence of something demonic in your home. These signs may seem strange, even trivial to some, but when pieced together, they tell a story of disturbance, a story of terror, but more importantly, a story of protection if you choose to understand the clues. The first sign I want you to be aware of is the most tangible. It is the unexplained cold spots that you may experience in different areas of your home. A cold that is not tied to the weather, not tied to the air conditioning, not tied to any logical explanation at all. These spots can appear suddenly in the middle of a warm summer afternoon or during the dead of night when your house is supposed to be at its warmest. You may walk into a room and feel as though you've entered a freezer, yet there's nothing around that could explain it. Your breath starts to condense in front of you, but the air around you is still. These cold spots are often the first signs of a malevolent force taking up residence in your space, and they are never something to take lightly. Think about it. Why would an area of your home suddenly feel cold when everything else feels normal? This type of temperature anomaly could be the manifestation of something unseen, a presence that feeds off energy, a presence that thrives in the cold. Next, let's talk about something that will send shivers down your spine. It's the unsettling noises that you can hear in the stillness of your home. A creak of the floorboards when no one is around, a knock at the door that you didn't hear coming from anyone on the other side, whispers, the sound of footsteps pacing in another room when you know that no one else is home. These sounds are not always loud or obvious, but they are undeniably unsettling. You might hear these noises late at night when the house is quiet, or during the day when you're alone. These noises will make you question your own senses. You'll hear something, you'll feel something. You'll know something is there, but when you go to investigate, there's nothing to find. These noises are the voice of something beyond your comprehension, something trying to make its presence known, a demon, a spirit, or something that thrives on fear. And the more you hear it, the more you start to question reality itself. But it doesn't stop there. There's another eerie sign you should never ignore, the appearance of dark shadows or figures. It often happens in the corners of your vision. A fleeting glimpse of something moving when you weren't expecting it. You turn quickly only to find nothing there. But when you return your gaze, that shadow is still lingering, perhaps in a different spot now. A figure, tall, dark, and sometimes human in shape. appears when you're least expecting it. It may seem like a trick of the light at first, or a figment of your imagination, but once it happens more than once, you begin to realize it's not your mind playing tricks. These figures are not human, they are not natural, they are demonic. They move in and out of your sight, often when you're alone. They linger in places you avoid, in dark rooms, or near places where you've felt other strange occurrences. These figures are often the ones that make you feel watched, like you're never truly alone in your own space. They are signs of something that thrives on your fear. And let's not forget about the objects that move on their own. Have you ever left your house only to come home and find objects rearranged or completely out of place? A book you left on the table is now on the floor. A chair you pushed in is pulled out. A lamp you turned off is now on. These shifts in your environment seem small, trivial, and yet, when you combine them with the other signs, they paint a very clear picture of something sinister happening in your home. It's as if the space around you is no longer in your control. It's as though something or someone is playing games with your mind. Objects moving or disappearing without explanation is not something to brush off. It's one of the clearest signs that a force is trying to manipulate your environment. And the more it happens, the more unsettling it becomes, because no matter how hard you try to rationalize it, you cannot explain it away. As the atmosphere in your home begins to change, you'll notice something else, the overwhelming feelings of fear, anxiety, or depression that seem to come out of nowhere. You wake up one morning and suddenly the air feels thick. You feel uneasy in your own home, restless. The constant dread weighs on your chest, making it hard to breathe. You try to shake it off, but it lingers, it grows. And as the days pass, the feeling intensifies. People in your house begin to feel this collective sense of dread, as if the entire home has become tainted. The air is heavy. The walls are closing in. This sudden shift in energy, this overwhelming sense of doom, can be linked to something demonic in your space, a force that feeds on negative emotions, that amplifies feelings of hopelessness and fear. This dark energy will erode your sense of peace, replacing it with a sense of constant anxiety and despair. Finally, the last and most disturbing sign that something demonic may be in your home is strange physical effects on the residents. Perhaps you notice that your sleep patterns begin to change. You're constantly waking up at odd hours of the night, drenched in sweat, feeling disoriented, or maybe you experience fatigue that doesn't make sense. You can't explain why you're so tired, even after a full night's sleep. You may have chronic headaches that never seem to go away, or find yourself plagued by physical ailments that have no medical explanation. This is the most insidious sign of all, because it isn't just the mind that's being affected, it's your body. A demonic presence may drain your energy, disrupt your physical well-being, and make you feel ill in ways that modern medicine cannot explain. It's as if something is feeding off your vitality, causing you to feel weaker and weaker over time. Ladies and gentlemen, if you begin to experience these signs, unexplained cold spots, unsettling noises, dark figures in your peripheral vision, objects moving, overwhelming feelings of fear and depression, or strange physical ailments, it's time to take action. These are the signs of a force that doesn't belong in your home. These are the signs of a demon. And when you recognize them, you must trust your instinct. You must take steps to protect yourself and your family. Don't ignore the warning signs. Don't let your home become a place of terror. Remember, it's not just about believing in what you can see, it's about understanding the unseen, the forces that operate beyond our understanding. The signs are here, in your space, ready to alert you to what's hiding in the shadows. Pay attention, take action, and protect what matters most. The presence of unexplained cold spots in a home is one of the most commonly reported signs when something supernatural may be lurking in the space. It is unsettling, eerie, and often causes a deep sense of unease among those who experience it. Imagine walking through your home on an ordinary day, perhaps moving from room to room, and suddenly you feel a dramatic drop in temperature. It's not as though the air conditioning kicked on or the windows were opened. No, the cold is concentrated, localized, and for no apparent reason, you feel as though you've entered a freezer. There's no breeze, no draft, and yet the cold is sharp enough to make you shiver even when the rest of the house is perfectly warm. This sensation is one that defies logic. In a typical setting, temperature fluctuations can occur due to natural factors. An open window, a door left ajar, or an air conditioning unit operating nearby. But the cold spots associated with paranormal activity are different. They come without warning, without any reasonable cause, and they seem to defy natural explanation. They can occur at any time of the day or night, often when you're least expecting it. The cold is almost suffocating in how sudden and intense it feels, and it's enough to make anyone question what they are feeling. In many reported experiences, these cold spots appear in specific areas of the home, often in places that feel especially unsettling. They may linger in corners of rooms, hallways, or near doors and windows. Sometimes they seem to appear in areas of the house that have a history of paranormal activity, places where people have experienced strange occurrences, heard whispers, or felt watched. This concentration of cold in one particular area with no logical explanation has been a telltale sign of malevolent energy. But what's more intriguing than the temperature itself is the sensation that seems to accompany it. It's as though the coldness seeps into your very bones, leaving you feeling physically uncomfortable. Even if you are dressed warmly, your breath may condense in the air, making it seem as though you're standing in a room far colder than it actually is. Despite your attempts to rationalize the experience, the cold persists, often growing stronger before dissipating as mysteriously as it arrived. When you leave the affected area, the feeling of coldness disappears, leaving behind only the lingering sense of something unnatural. The cold spots are often accompanied by other strange experiences. People who report feeling this sudden drop in temperature will often mention that the air feels off, or that they can sense an odd presence in the space, almost as if something is nearby, observing them. There is an overwhelming sense of discomfort that rises within them, and they may experience an intuitive feeling that they are not alone. This combination of physical coldness and emotional unease serves as an unsettling indication that there may be more to these phenomena than just an unusual fluctuation in temperature. From a metaphysical standpoint, many believe that this coldness is linked to the presence of spirits, demons, or other supernatural entities. It is often thought that these entities are associated with a disruption of the natural energy around them. Cold spots are said to occur because supernatural entities feed off or manipulate energy, often in ways that humans cannot perceive. The feeling of cold is seen as a manifestation of this energy disruption, a sign that something or someone is trying to make its presence felt. When this energy is disturbed or drawn into the environment, it creates the physical sensation of coldness as the supernatural force attempts to anchor itself to the location. Additionally, some theories suggest that cold spots are linked to what is known as electromagnetic fields, or disturbances in the electromagnetic energy in the atmosphere. These fields are thought to influence how we perceive reality, and when they are altered by supernatural forces, they could contribute to temperature fluctuations. As the electromagnetic energy shifts, it might trigger sensations of coldness, particularly if a spirit or demon is attempting to manifest itself. For those who have experienced these cold spots, the emotional and physical effects are often hard to shake off. The sensation lingers in the mind long after the temperature returns to normal. People feel disturbed, drained, or disoriented, as though something unnatural is present. It's a jarring reminder that there is more at play than just the everyday world we see around us. It is a reminder that sometimes the forces beyond our understanding can invade our most sacred spaces, our homes, and leave behind evidence in the form of unexplained cold. Perhaps one of the most alarming things about cold spots is that they are often the first indicators of a deeper, darker presence in the home. They can signal the beginning of more significant and troubling experiences, sounds, sightings, or even physical harm. The cold is not just a physical sensation, it's a warning, a chilling invitation to become more attuned to what's happening around you, urging you to pay attention, to listen, and to understand that not all things in your home belong there. It is the first sign of something that has crossed over from another realm, and it's there to make itself known. There's an eerie and unsettling phenomenon that many people experience when something unnatural is present in their home, and that's the occurrence of strange, unexplained noises. These sounds often happen when no one else is around, making it all the more disturbing. It's one thing to hear the creaks and groans of an old house settling, but it's something entirely different when you hear sounds that shouldn't be there. Sounds that don't have a clear source and that seem to defy the natural order of things. These noises can take many forms, from whispers to footsteps, knocks, and even the sound of objects shifting or moving. Each one is different, but all of them share one thing in common. They are unsettling, and they often make you question what is truly happening in your own home. The experience of hearing unexplained noises in the dead of night is particularly chilling. Imagine you're lying in bed trying to fall asleep when suddenly you hear the distinct sound of footsteps moving across the floor in the hallway outside your room. Your heart skips a beat as you sit up in bed, wondering if someone has entered your home. You listen intently, waiting for another sound, but the footsteps stop. You rise and cautiously move through the house, only to find it empty. No intruder, no sign of anyone else being there. The house is quiet, and yet the sound of those footsteps lingers in your mind. This feeling of being watched or followed can be unnerving, especially when it happens without explanation. It doesn't have to be footsteps to make you uneasy. People have reported hearing whispers, low murmurs, or even voices calling their names when no one is around. These whispers often seem to come from nowhere, and everything about them feels wrong. They may not even be coherent words at first. They may sound like soft mutterings or incomprehensible noises that send a chill down your spine. But these voices, though faint, have a clarity to them that suggests they are meant to be heard. It's as if something is trying to communicate with you, or perhaps more disturbingly, it's trying to make its presence known. And the worst part is, when you try to investigate or confront the source, there's nothing there. The whispers vanish as quickly as they appear, leaving you with the eerie sensation that you weren't imagining it, but no logical explanation for the sounds. Knocks are another common occurrence in homes that are believed to be haunted or affected by negative forces. They come without warning, sharp and distinct, often on doors, walls, or windows. You might hear a soft tap, followed by a pause, only for the knocks to become louder and more forceful. There's a rhythmic quality to them, almost as though they are deliberate, and yet no one is there. No one is knocking. The isolation of being the only person at home with no one visible to explain the sounds can be enough to send a wave of panic through anyone. These knocking noises are not just unsettling, they're designed to provoke fear and uncertainty, making you question what's real and what isn't. They often happen when you least expect them, at night or in quiet, empty rooms, and they seem to invite something into your space, something that shouldn't be there, The sounds of objects shifting or moving on their own can be just as terrifying, especially when they seem to happen while you are away or in another part of the house. Imagine coming home to find that a chair has moved from where it was originally placed, or a book has fallen from a shelf without anyone touching it. In more extreme cases, objects might even seem to levitate or slide across a surface on their own. These physical shifts often create a sense of chaos and discomfort as they remind you that your space is no longer under your control. The reality you once understood of furniture staying where you left it and objects remaining undisturbed is now shattered by the impossible. These movements defy logic and are the very definition of strange, making anyone who experiences them feel like they are living in a distorted version of reality. Perhaps the most unnerving aspect of these noises is that they tend to be accompanied by a growing sense of dread, something intangible that lingers in the air. The physical manifestations of these sounds, footsteps, knocks, whispers, objects shifting, are unsettling on their own, but the feelings they evoke are just as terrifying. It's not just the noises themselves that cause fear, it's the deep, primal sense that you are no longer alone. There's an entity or entities present in your home, and their movements, noises, and actions are a constant reminder that something unseen is watching you, waiting for the perfect moment to make its presence known in more dramatic ways. What makes these occurrences particularly chilling is their inconsistency. Unlike other types of disturbances that may have a clear source, like a faulty appliance, a drafty window, or the sound of the house settling, these noises have no apparent cause. They seem to defy explanation, and no matter how many times you try to rationalize or dismiss them, they continue to happen. The mind cannot easily accept that something so unnatural could be at play, especially in a place that is meant to be safe and familiar. Yet these noises persist, leaving behind a lingering sense of unease that is impossible to ignore. Ultimately, the experience of hearing strange noises in your home is one of the most haunting and visceral signs that something supernatural is present. It can shake your sense of security, leaving you feeling vulnerable and afraid in the very place you should feel most at ease. These noises are not just signs of the unknown. They are the calls of something that is actively trying to make its presence known. They are warnings. And while you may not be able to see the entity causing them, you can certainly feel the impact. It's a reminder that sometimes the most disturbing things aren't the ones we can see, they're the ones we can hear but can't explain. One of the most chilling experiences anyone can encounter in their home is the sighting of dark shadows or figures moving in the periphery of their vision. These figures often appear fleetingly, just at the edge of your line of sight, and are typically seen in dimly lit areas or during the night when the house is quiet. The figure is often described as a shadowy outline, human-like in shape, but dark and ill-defined, lacking distinct features. It may appear to move quickly, vanishing before you can fully focus on it, or it may linger just out of full view, making you question whether what you saw was real or merely your mind playing tricks. But regardless of the details, the sensation it evokes is profound. There's a sense that you've glimpsed something, someone that shouldn't be there. The presence of these shadows is often accompanied by a deep sense of dread, an unease that settles in your chest and lingers long after the shadow has disappeared. These shadowy figures aren't always confined to the edges of your vision. In some instances, they may manifest more clearly, appearing as a full silhouette standing in a room or hallway. The figure may be tall and menacing, hunched over, or vaguely human-shaped. The darkness surrounding the figure often feels unnatural, as though the light in the room has been absorbed or swallowed by it. The figure's appearance is typically silent. There are no footsteps, no creaks on the floorboards, but the very air around it seems heavy, as if something has crossed into your space from somewhere beyond. The experience of seeing these figures can be deeply unsettling. and it's not uncommon for those who have seen them to feel as if they are being watched. The sensation of being watched is perhaps one of the most disturbing aspects of these encounters. The very presence of the shadow or figure causes an instinctual feeling of fear, the kind that makes your skin crawl and your heartbeat quicken. It's a fear that seems to stem from something primal, something ancient and deep within us that senses danger before our conscious mind can process it. This feeling of being observed or even pursued often intensifies as the figure seems to be aware of you, reacting to your movements or changes in position. What makes these shadow figures so frightening is their elusive nature. They don't fully appear in the way that a human would. They often seem to be half-formed, distorted, or impossible to fully grasp with your eyes. Some people report that these figures disappear the moment they try to focus on them, vanishing as quickly as they appeared. Others describe them as shifting, moving just beyond the threshold of light, always lingering in areas that make you feel uncomfortable, like the corners of rooms, along dark hallways, or near doors. It's as if they exist in a space just beyond the physical world, almost as though they are not fully anchored to reality. For some, these shadow figures take on more specific and even threatening characteristics. They may appear as shadowy versions of humans, sometimes distorted in ways that make them seem otherworldly or unnatural. These figures may have an aura of malice or ill intent, and they seem to be watching or following you in a way that suggests they are aware of your every move. The fear these figures elicit is not only from their appearance, but from the unsettling realization that they are not bound by the same laws of physics or reality as we are. They move in ways that defy logic. They may appear to pass through walls or walk through closed doors, or they might simply stand still motionless, yet still exude a palpable sense of menace. People who experience these sightings often describe the figure's energy as oppressive, almost as if it is drawing from the space around it, feeding off of the fear that begins to build as the figure is seen again and again. It's not uncommon for the figure to appear repeatedly, haunting the same areas of the home, further cementing the belief that it is not a trick of the mind, but rather a persistent and ominous presence. The repeated appearances of these figures can start to erode the sense of safety that a home should provide. No matter how many times you check the house or how thoroughly you search every corner, these shadowy figures remain elusive and frustratingly intangible, continuing to remind you that something is out of place. Some individuals report experiencing a stronger, more physical presence along with the sighting of these figures. This can include a drop in temperature, a sense of dizziness or nausea, or an overwhelming feeling of dread. These physical responses suggest that the entity or force behind the shadow is not just a passive observer, but an active presence, one that can manipulate the environment around you. In these instances, it's not only the sight of the figure that is disturbing, but the emotional and physical toll it takes on those who witness it. There's often a sense that these shadows are feeding off the fear and discomfort they cause, drawing energy from the anxiety they provoke in the observer. Interestingly, the appearance of dark shadows and figures is often linked to paranormal experiences that go beyond mere visual anomalies. In many cases, these shadows are associated with hauntings or demonic activity. Those who believe in the supernatural often suggest that these figures are manifestations of negative energy, spirits or entities that have crossed over into our world, intruding into spaces where they are not welcome. These entities might be trying to communicate or exert control over the space, and the shadowy figure is their way of making their presence known. The fear they instill is often seen as a way of asserting dominance over the environment, forcing the inhabitants of the home to acknowledge their presence, even if they cannot fully explain it. The sensation that these figures are not entirely of this world is what makes them particularly unsettling. They are neither fully material nor fully immaterial, but rather exist in a space between realms. They seem to distort the physical world around them, bending the laws of reality to fit their presence. When a shadow or figure moves in and out of view, it blurs the line between what is real and what is imagined, leaving you in a state of constant uncertainty. You are left wondering whether you are truly seeing what you think you are seeing, or if your mind is simply playing tricks on you. This sense of doubt, however, does little to ease the fear. In fact, it only amplifies it, creating a psychological and emotional strain that lasts far longer than the initial sighting itself. The memory of that dark figure, always just out of reach, becomes an indelible mark on your mind, one that makes you question the very nature of reality in your own home. The sensation of feeling watched is a deeply unsettling experience that can haunt the inhabitants of a home, particularly when they are alone or in the most vulnerable moments. This feeling often emerges suddenly, as if someone is observing you from a hidden spot within the house, watching your every move, but without a visible presence to confirm this suspicion. It's the unsettling idea that although there is no one in sight, you are not truly alone. This sensation can arise at any moment while sitting in the living room, walking down a hallway, or even when you're in bed, attempting to fall asleep. It's as though something unseen is silently observing, and this awareness can cause a creeping sense of dread to wash over you, making you hyper-aware of every movement and sound in the room. What makes the feeling of being watched so disorienting is its intangible nature. It is not always accompanied by any physical proof, such as a sound, a movement, or a visual cue. The environment around you remains still, and there's no logical reason for this discomfort. However, the sensation is often so strong that it feels more real than the room or space you're occupying. The fear stems from this disconnect between what is happening around you and the deep sense of being observed. Your instinct is to look over your shoulder, scan the room, or check the corners of the space for anything out of place. But no matter how much you search, the feeling persists. The intensity of this sensation can vary. In some cases, it may feel like a light, nagging discomfort, but in others, it can grow so overwhelming that it becomes almost unbearable. The mind races to identify the source of the feeling, to pinpoint whether it's just your imagination or if there is truly something lurking nearby. This constant state of unease can be physically exhausting as the body tenses up, anticipating something that may or may not be there. Your heart rate increases, and every little sound, every flicker of movement is analyzed as a potential threat. The unsettling feeling continues to grow, and despite your attempts to push it away, it remains like a dark cloud hanging over you. In homes where paranormal activity is suspected, this sensation of being watched is often described as one of the first signs of an invasive presence. Many believe that spirits, demons, or other supernatural entities seek to make their presence known by subtly manipulating the environment around them, and the feeling of being watched is one of the ways they do so. It's as though the entity is waiting, observing, or even studying the inhabitants of the house. The act of watching without interacting can be one of the most chilling forms of engagement. There's no noise, no physical evidence, just a feeling that someone or something is silently observing from a distance. It often occurs in areas of the home that are isolated or not frequently used, like a dark hallway, a spare bedroom, or the basement, which only adds to the sense of loneliness and vulnerability. This sensation can be particularly disturbing when experienced at night in the dark, when the lights are dim or the house is quiet. The mind becomes more sensitive to every small movement or sound, amplifying the feeling of being watched. As the darkness settles in, the fear becomes more pronounced, and the thought of unseen eyes lurking in the shadows is enough to make anyone feel uneasy. The quiet of the night becomes oppressive, and the sensation of being watched seems to grow stronger. You might even feel the need to hurry through the house, as though the entity is waiting for the right moment to make itself known. There's also a psychological component to this experience. The sensation of being watched taps into deep-seated fears of vulnerability and the loss of control. Humans are naturally wary of being observed without their knowledge, and this primal fear comes from an ancient instinct of self-preservation. In earlier times, being watched could mean the difference between life and death, as predators or enemies might be lurking unseen, assessing their next move. This ancient part of the brain still reacts to the feeling of being watched, even when there is no immediate threat. This instinctive reaction to the feeling of being observed can be overwhelming, often triggering an anxious, almost paranoid state, as your mind races to figure out whether your fear is justified or not. What makes this sensation so much more troubling is the realization that it can persist over time. Unlike other unsettling experiences that might fade or resolve once you leave a space, the feeling of being watched lingers, following you as you move from room to room. You may experience it in one area of the house, then move to another, only to find the sensation creeping back again. It's like being followed by an invisible presence, a constant reminder that something is there but you cannot prove it. The longer the sensation persists, the more it erodes your sense of safety in your own home. A place that should be your sanctuary becomes a source of anxiety and discomfort as you begin to question whether the presence you feel is real or a figment of your imagination. In some extreme cases, the sensation of being watched may even trigger other paranormal phenomena. People who report feeling observed often describe an escalation in other strange occurrences, such as hearing footsteps, witnessing objects move, or feeling cold spots in certain areas. These experiences often seem to build upon one another, increasing the sense of intrusion and making the inhabitants feel even more vulnerable in their own space. It's not just the initial sensation that creates fear, but the knowledge that the unseen presence is aware of you, and it is patiently waiting, studying your movements, and drawing closer. The feeling of being watched is not something that can be easily dismissed. It's a deeply personal and uncomfortable experience, one that leaves a lingering sense of unease long after the moment has passed. The mind may try to rationalize the sensation, telling you that it's just the product of an overactive imagination or a natural reaction to the dark. But in the moments when the discomfort becomes overwhelming and no logical explanation can satisfy the unease, it's hard to ignore the possibility that something more sinister is at play. When you're in your own home, a place that should be a refuge from the world, the last thing you want to feel is that you're being watched by something you cannot see. This sensation cuts to the heart of what it means to feel truly unsafe, and it's one of the most unnerving signs that your home may not be as secure as you once thought. As we've explored the signs and experiences that suggest something beyond the ordinary might be lurking within the walls of our homes, one thing becomes clear: our homes are not always as secure or as comforting as we might think. The signs of paranormal activity, whether it be unexplained noises, shadowy figures, or the unsettling sensation of being watched, remind us that there are forces and energies that can intrude upon our personal space, disrupting our sense of safety and peace. The stories shared here are not just tales of the unknown, but are warnings of things that can shake our very sense of reality, making us question what we know to be true. When faced with these experiences, we must not only stay vigilant, but also trust our instincts and seek the answers that can help us regain control and peace in our homes. In the end, whether these phenomena are the result of our own imaginations or something more supernatural, the experience of encountering such things is undeniably profound. They challenge our perceptions of the world around us, forcing us to confront the possibility that there is more to this life than we can see, hear, or understand. I want to thank you for taking the time to explore this topic and listen to the insights shared today. I hope that it has inspired you to reflect on your surroundings and be mindful of the energies that may be at play. It's important to approach these experiences with caution, curiosity, and an open mind, as we never know when we might find ourselves face to face with the unseen. Good luck on your journey to understanding and peace, and may you always find strength in facing the unknown. Thank you for your time and attention. Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, your home should always be a sanctuary.